At this point in time, I'd like to yield 5 minutes to my colleague from California, a member of the Intelligence Committee, Mr. Issa.
The gentleman from California is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the resolution be modified at page 1, line 6, after the word Iraq, to include personnel from the United States Intelligence Committee who are serving or who have served bravely and honorably worldwide to counter radical jihadism. Without objection?
The previous question has been ordered without amendment.
Does that mean, point of parliamentary inquiry, does that mean that unanimous consent cannot be offered?
The previous question has been ordered without amendment.
Further point of inquiry, my understanding is that a unanimous consent is always in order separate from the rule. Is that not correct?
All right, that is not correct. The chair is not in a position to entertain any amendment to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker, that makes it very clear that, in fact, even if there is no objection to including the brave men and women who operate often without weapons, who operate behind enemy lines, who in fact are part of our intelligence community, they cannot be included in this resolution. It's a sad day when democracy does not even include that which there is no objection as being considered. Notwithstanding that, Madam Speaker, I think it's extremely important that we deal with the limited, strict language we've been offered. And in the spirit of that strict language, I must oppose it. And I must oppose it because, in fact, on a strict basis, this resolution, if heeded by the administration, says stay a failed course of action. Madam Speaker, it is amazing that the election very clearly told us in November that the American people were not comfortable with the conduct of this war, that in fact, on both sides of the aisle, people were calling for a bolder vision, a vision that was more aggressive diplomatically and militarily. In fact, two presidential candidates, Mrs. Senator Hillary Clinton and, in fact, Senator McCain, are and have been saying we should have had more troops early, we should have more troops now. It's amazing that, in fact, the one thing this resolution is saying is stay the course, make no changes. Further, regardless of what my Democrat colleagues would say today, the next step after, Mr. President, we will not send more troops, is, Mr. President, we will not send more tanks. Mr. President, we will not send further personnel and intellectual gatherers to understand our enemy. Mr. President, we won't send more translators. Mr. President, we cannot and will not support more body armor. Mr. President, we will not support this war on terror throughout the region. Those are the next steps, because you can't simply say, as this resolution tries to, stay the course, do nothing. No increases, no decreases, support the troops but send them more. That makes as much sense as telling the people at the Alamo, stay the course. That wasn't the right solution at the Alamo. At the Alamo, they either should have increased their forces so they could sustain the bombardment or withdrawn. We, in fact, are in a position where the President has made a multitude of new initiatives, one of which includes additional troops to help relieve those tired troops, to help bring the force level up to a level similar to exactly what presidential candidates on both sides of the aisle were clamoring for just a few weeks ago and throughout the election. Madam Speaker, one of the other things that just amazes me, today I took a little time and I checked out how many members of Congress served in the military. Turns out it's less than a third. I checked out how many members went to Iraq in the previous Congress. It turns out less than a third. The fact is that we are considering a resolution as though we were General Petraeus, a man who was unanimously confirmed in the Senate just a few days ago and deployed to support and defend our troops and this effort, who is solidly convinced that we have to do more and do it better, and who's there to do it and was unanimously concerned. I asked for one additional minute.
A minute.
In closing, Madam Speaker, thank you, Madam Speaker. In closing, only here would less than a third of the members having gone and seen what's going on in Iraq, less than a third having served in the military, even at a minor level of lieutenant or captain or private, have the hubris to say that we have to not add, not subtract, just keep the exact same number that we and the American people believe is not getting the job done. That is exactly what this resolution is claiming to do. We're not given an alternative in any way, shape, or form. So, Madam Speaker, there is no choice on either side of the aisle, whether you believe we should have more or we should have less. Nobody believes we should stay the exact course with no change, and that is what this is asking for. So I call on my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to realize that, in fact, this resolution calls for the one thing that the American people most object to, and that is unchanged, staying the course at this level. The American people called on us in November to do something bolder to bring peace in the region, and I call on you to vote down this resolution just exactly to do that, and I yield back.